if people don't start off equal, you can't expect them to compete equally. So you need to give those who start up at a disadvantage some competitive help in order to allow them to compete fairly. And that's why when I speak about competition, I always add the word free and fair.
Welcome to AM Hour. The soul of AM Hour is to encourage people to communicate. We believe in bridging the gaps with words. We believe in education. We believe in being a student of the world and expanding our boundary as a global citizen. In this hour, there will be flaws in our English, but that is not the essence of it. The key things are that we get to communicate, we get to bridge the gaps, and we get to be a global citizen. I hope we can agree on that and enjoy this hour. สวัสดีครับ
สวัสดีครับ
So it's good to see you.
Very good to see you. It's been a long time.
It's been 4 years, I guess.
Since we actually meet in person?
Yes.
Okay.
That's what I recall, and that was in London.
Indeed, in a pub.
In a pub.
That's
in a
right.
pub. First of all, credit where it is due. You are one of the few guests that came to the show exactly on time.
Oh.
And I think it's quite important for me.
That's good to know.
In my organization, I tell everyone that to show respect to people, you come on time.
Yeah, I think being on time shows that you believe that other people's time is worth just as much as yours. And you shouldn't keep anybody waiting. But anyway, I'm glad to hear it.
Yeah. And secondly, I need to stress this again. My English isn't perfect, but I just want to create this show to encourage people to discuss in English because I believe like a lot of people maybe have similar to my background. I didn't start learning English since I was like P.4, so it was like 10 or 11
years old.
So my tongue can never be
Same,
like
actually.
Queen's English.
I started speaking English when I was about 11. But then I was exposed to it more because I studied abroad. So I don't think we need to have perfect English. It's all about the ability to communicate. And even particularly the accent. I don't think in this modern day and age, anybody should worry about the accent that they use. The key element of language usage is the ability to communicate. So don't be shy. And I'm speaking to everybody. Don't be shy. Don't be afraid of getting it wrong. It's not our mother tongue. It's not our language. And just focus on communicating your point.
Well, since I haven't met you for so long, but there are so many changes that came for both of us. I was a journalist. You were at Democrat Party.
Yes.
Now you were once at กล้า and now ชาติพัฒนากล้า
Right.
Can you tell me about the journey you have been in the last 4 years?
It's been a challenging and a good journey these past 3 years. So I was an MP in this parliament. We could still say this parliament for another few days yet. For about a year. I was an MP for about a year. And then I decided I want to do something else. And I really felt that the existing political parties just didn't do it for me. And I'm not saying it's good or bad. It just wasn't for me. And given what I wanted to do, I felt that it would be more challenging to do it with a group of like-minded people in a new organization. So Kun Atawit and I, we both left one day after the other from the old party, and we formed the party that was at that time known as กล้า And it's been a fun journey since, a challenging journey, but a fun one. And we're about to meet our main challenge, which is the general election to come.
One also wonder that your decision to I mean like if you compare to your journey to คุณอภิสิทธิ์ and คุณอภิสิทธิ์ decided to resign right after Democrat Party decided to join with คุณประยุทธ์
Right.
and you decided to continue.
That's right.
And you were an MP for like a
1 year
or so.
1 year.
Is it worth it? I mean, like if you decided to resign the same time with คุณอภิ
Oh,
สิทธิ์
I felt I had responsibilities, to be honest. I felt that I was chair of the party's policy team in the run-up to the last election. So I spent a year doing that. I felt that it was a responsible thing to do. as a member at that time of the Democrat Party, and I had no regrets. I have never been directly involved in the Prayut administration in any way, and even today, I've chosen our own independent path and focus on what we want to do for the people and for the country. So, I stand by every decision that I've made in the past, and I now look forward to the future.
In the past 20 years, Thailand has so many versions of democracies and politics. Which would be the healthiest version of it? You were in a position where you get to govern even economically. I mean, like speaking of like economics.
I think you have to think back and ask, in my opinion, when were we closest to the liberal democratic ideal? And I would have to say it was during the Apisit's administration. Now, a lot of audience of this program may disagree with that, but the liberal democratic ideal, in my view, means it was a time when we adhered to the political rules. We tried to create an environment whereby every voice was heard. We tried to execute policies that we felt was beneficiary to the majority. There were a lot of challenges that we faced at the time, both externally and domestically. But we very much tried to stick to those ideals during that time. But it hasn't been ideal, and it's time we sort of change course, I think, in terms of the way we do politics here in Thailand.
I'm fortunate to get to talk to you because you were once Minister of Finance, and you've been in politics for the last 20 years, where, to be honest, Thailand is getting a bit worse. I want to know from your version what went wrong with Thailand.
Yeah, it's you're right. I often think about this. I had 1 year of what I call constructive politics, and that was my first year in politics as an MP. That was during Thai's government. The first year was good. I was in opposition, of course, but I felt that the politics, as I said, was, I think the best word to use was constructive, and then it sort of turned nasty and more divisive. So discussion of constructive issues was lost amongst the noise of the conflict, and that conflict has been ongoing. I guess it's still being played out today. It's not over, and that's a problem. So I decided 3 years ago, when I left my old party to set up GLA, was that I wasn't sure whether I was able to do it effectively or not, but I want to be a part in putting a stop to this kind of destructive, backward-looking politics. I believe that there's a growing majority of Thais who's basically fed up with this kind of contentious politics. I think we've seen over the past several years that there are beneficiaries, but the beneficiaries are not the people of this kind of politics. People take turns in coming to power, and those who are in power enjoy the benefits, but the country doesn't. The majority of the population doesn't. And so I wanted to have a part in putting a stop to this. And that was very much the intent of all of us who came together to form the GLA party and now the Chapatana GLA party.
Okay, we mentioned ideology. What is your ideology? The key principle of yours?
I believe in competition. If I was to label myself politically, I would say that I am a liberal Democrat. I believe in diversity. I believe in the creation of opportunities, equal opportunities. And that drives our policy, that drives the way we think and what we do. If you look at the policies that we proposed during this campaign so far, you see that there's an underlying trend, and that is we wanted to create free and fair competition for everybody, from the small man, free and fair competition and opportunity to access reasonable financing with reasonable interest rates, for example. That's the main overriding theme. And we understand that in the context of Thailand today, the drive towards the creation of free and fair competition means that we're going to be running up against some existing power bases. And we need to challenge that. We need to have the courage to hit that challenge straight on. And that's what we've been trying to communicate to the public. That it's no good really just sort of solving the problems by subsidies and payments using tax money or using government loans. You need to address a lot of the issues at the core and change the structure, the underlying business and economic structure, which will in turn allow other people, smaller people, to compete. And that's the way to create dynamism in the economy and create long-term sustainable growth, which is growth for all rather than growth for just a few.
I think that's the question that in a lot of people's mind when you mention the word power base and tackle it. Okay, define in your own terms what is the main power base in Thailand that we need to tackle?
It's obviously both the big companies, it's the state enterprises, it's the bureaucracy. In many instances, it's the rules and regulations, and these are all the existing status quo, basically, the way things are today. Which means, for example, that oil price is higher than it needs to be, electricity price is higher than it needs to be, interest rate spread is wider than it needs to be, even down to issues like the current PM 2.5 problem. We Thais have become used to things the way they are, and over time we begin to accept that maybe this is something that we need to always live with, and nothing can be done about it. But the truth is, something can be done about it, but it needs to be addressed at the structure, and that's what we try to communicate. It's sometimes a difficult message to send across. It's easier just to come up with a number of how much we're going to be subsidizing the general public, but that's easy. And if you can do that, and we have found over the past decade or so that pursuing just that kind of politics doesn't solve the problem for the people. It doesn't make them richer. It doesn't make them self-efficient. And so, we're trying a different approach, a harder approach, but a necessary one.
You have mentioned free and fair competition. I think the main thing is that for me, from what you have said, there's a lot of things that on a surface, and in order to have a free and fair competition, the ground of the competition, everything things have to be equal. Yeah.
That I might disagree with. Because people don't start up equal.
Yeah.
If people don't start off equal, you can't expect them to compete equally. So I think you need to give people some advantages, a leg up, some handicaps. So if you're born poor and you're told, go and compete equally, with those who were able to go to international school to learn English, to go to MIT, Harvard, and pick up great degrees. It's impossible or very difficult to compete. So you need to give those who start up at a disadvantage some competitive help in order to allow them to compete fairly. And that's why when I speak about competition, I always add the word free and fair. If you just do free, okay, let everybody go and compete, and the government stands aside and doesn't intervene, doesn't do anything. Then the big guys, the rich guys, they're always almost certainly going to win, or at least have a much greater chance of winning. But if you add the word fair to it, that changes the game somewhat. And so I actually, I don't call myself libertarian. I call myself liberal because I still believe in government intervention and government intervention in order to create a level playing field, fair game. And that means government assistance in certain areas in order to allow people to properly compete.
You want to sip a bit of is it coffee or tea?
I have some water.
Okay.
Some work point water.
Moving on to, we are having this conversation in English, partly because so we can discuss about Thailand on a global stage.
Right.
You have been studying abroad. You have been the world finance minister sort of, and can you visualize potentially what can Thailand be on a global stage?
Yes. During my time in government, Thailand had an outsized role on the global stage, not because we were doing anything that was particularly great, but it was because we were representing ASEAN. And I think that's an important point to remember. That is, in reality, we're a relatively small country. We're very fortunate in that we are a country that is much loved by everybody. We cannot overstate that importance. The fact is, we are friendly with every country. Even now, with the growing conflict between the superpowers, our relationship with all the big powers, all the medium-sized powers, middle powers, is a very positive one. So we need to use that to our advantage. Obviously, there are economic advantages to that already being felt in terms of the ability to attract investments from both political spectrums. Tourism, our position is a good one, but our ability to make the most of it, I think, is dependent on a strong ASEAN. I think our ability to negotiate issues that are important to us economically, for example, with the big international platforms, in the same way that the EU has managed to the benefits of its member countries, we can't do it as a standalone country. Even Indonesia, which is a significant global power, cannot do it by themselves. But combined, I think we can do a lot more. Unfortunately, over the past 10 years or so, I think ASEAN has sort of lost its way, and it's not anybody's fault, but I think it just so happens that during this period, there hasn't been an obvious ASEAN national leader who has had an ASEAN vision in the same way that previous leaders have had. So basically less impetus, less focus on developing ASEAN strategies than could have been the case. But I think we need to revisit that and to see how we can make ASEAN a vehicle for us in our role in the global stage.
Last question: If gone at this age, can travel back to maybe when you were 25?
25. All right.
What would you say to him?
Gosh, 25. I just returned to Thailand. I had just opened my own stock brokerage company. I would say to Kon then, wow, buckle up. There's a lot that's about to happen to your life that you're not expecting at all at that time. Yeah, not much more than that, really. I think you make your own. To a large degree, you make your own future. I think if each day you stick to your core principles, and you try to do right by yourself and those close to you, on a day by day, you'll be all right.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, so it's been a very positive hour for me. Thank you.
Thank you. I hope next time it's not going to be in the next 4 or 5 years again. Hopefully we get to meet more often.
Indeed.
Thank you. ขอบคุณครับ
สวัสดีครับ
โหวตเพื่อไทยปะล่ะ
โปรดก้าวไกลปะล่ะโหวตภูมิใจไทยปะล่ะ
ติดตามการเลือกตั้งกับพวกเราสำนักข่าว Today โหวตปะล่ะ